Hi everyone, this is Killshot99 Gaming, and this is The Walking Dead Season 9 Whisper of Facts. It is no longer a debate, it's no longer a theory. They are there, they have been cast, we are going to see them. We're going to talk about a little bit about some of the bad predictions that have happened with the Whispers. And then we're going to talk about the comic arc and try to transition how the comics could play in to the TV show with some of the characters being gone. This stream is a lot of research, and is for those of you that are too lazy to do your own research, we're going to talk about it. But you know what? I'm not alone with this. I have a group of experts. I got people that have read all the comics over and over again. I've done a little bit of behind-the-scenes stuff. I've still only read up to 107. So we're going to talk about when the introduction of the Whispers were. I'm going to give you the overview, some things, some very important events that happened, and then how that could transpire. So I appreciate everybody being here. We're going to pack this house. I think this is going to be a good stream because I think it's going to be a little educational, but it's also going to be a little bit emotional as well because we know that some characters are on the line. And I'm going to throw out it's a half theory. It's not going to be the full theory. It's something that is just not making sense, and the writers have dangled it, and they got our minds kind of working all the way around this, and I haven't completely figured it out. There is a mystery out there that I'm going to need a little bit of your help with. So we're going to get into it. Let's start out just by, I want to keep it light, because the Whispers have been talked about for a long, long time. We finally know, and here's Eugene rubbing the mud all over his face, trying to hide. He's in shock because we've got some things going down. Him and Rosita, the Whispers are hot on their trail, and it was confirmed by Greg Nicotero that was the Whispers. And I think, hold on, real quick before we get started. You guys know how we roll. The 999 Army is a family. I want to say happy birthday to Justin Barrett as well. So I did see that pop up a little bit earlier, so hopefully you have a wonderful birthday, and you guys send out some birthday shouts, some birthday wishes, and let me get a little humor working here. So that was Eugene, but do you guys remember this? Hopefully you do, because it was spread by a lot of different people. Remember when people thought the Fear was just a platform for the Whispers? Like, it didn't matter what you saw, whether it was Fear, whether it was the Passage, what it was, every picture that looked a little bit less Walker-like was definitely like, oh, that's a Whisper. And comicbook.com and a whole bunch of other people just circled it and ran with it and published it and talked about it, and it was a theory. I'm going to tell you, we have been wrong our share of times, but we'll admit it when we're wrong. There's a lot of bad information out there. You just have to know. All right. If you don't believe that one, come on, everybody. Let's give a little bit of participation here. How about this? That was definitely the Whispers, right? It wasn't Sandwalkers. Still probably not. But hold on. There's more. We're just getting started here before we get into the Whisper of Facts. It's going to be a fun night, everybody. Oh, certainly, this was definitely well talked about. I got to tell you, this is hundreds of thousands of views to discuss whether Nick was going to be a Whisperer. Now, I even used kind of a cool way of spelling what, just to bring a little more impact to it, because I was shocked. So that didn't happen either. But eventually we have to get one right. So, you're definitely right when we thought that Fear was going to introduce Beta. This was for sure the slam dunk of Beta. But no. That's not happening either. Couple more. If Nick wasn't a Whisperer, and he wasn't beta, then certainly Madison was meant to be alpha. Even after Madison burned, people were still convinced Madison was still alive and that Madison was going to be alpha. Nope. That didn't happen either. By the way, none of these are mine and ours. These are no 999 Army predictions. All right. I'm not even going to get into the thousands of other ones that are out there because we're going to talk some Whisper of Facts. I just wanted to kind of take you through memory lane a little bit and, if it's out there. This is from Walking Dead wiki. So I want to give you an overview of the Whispers, and you guys that are experts on this, definitely chime in, and I'll read through this. The Whispers are a mysterious group of survivors who disguise themselves with Romer skin to blend in with them so not to get noticed. They were first introduced in issue number 130. They served as the primary antagonist group for the series from volume 22, A New Beginning, and the Whisperer War. So that kind of paints the picture. I've heard people who have not read the comics that just know, and the first thing they tell me is the Whispers they're evil. And they don't really know the story of the Whispers. And to be honest with you, that was my first thought as well, too. And I'm not saying they're not, because I usually take, people's word that have a little bit more experience. But they are a little bit more in-depth than we're giving them credit for. And you take the television wrinkle that we're going to put out there, and things could change. Not saying they're not evil. I'm not saying they're not going to be out to prove their point. But as in many cases, it's all perspective. If you're a Whisperer, you probably don't think you're evil. If you're watching the TV show and you're Team Alexandria, then of course they're evil. But I'm going to use the word sinister, because I found out some stuff today that I wasn't really, I didn't really know some of the details. So I'm going to go through a few of the details with you. Okay. I had to throw this in there. One last YouTube craze, and this is probably not the Whispers either. But it is a cool herd. So now this is where we start to get into a little bit of the overview. And if some of this data is incorrect, then feel free to chime in. I will call on a few more people. I got some Patreon ideas. Actually, I do want to read this before we get going. Sorry. Because this is kind of what a couple people wanted to get out of the video. And these are Patreons, and occasionally I will post a question on our patreon.com site. You can see the supporters up on the top left corner and see what they want to know and what they want to discuss in the stream. So the Walking Dead nerd said, what she's most anxious to see is how the Whispers will be played out in the show, since most of their comic arc has to do with Carl and Rick. And that's very interesting to me as well. And we're going to talk about how that could play out. Also, spoiler alert from the comics, wants to know, will Lucille die on the back of Beta? We'll talk about that a little bit later on. And anxious to see what Dwight's arc is going to be. And then Steph, the Cuervo Queen, wants to know, is it going to be toned down? Is the violence going to be toned down? How brutal will they be? And how the communities are going to police them. I think that's always going to be a big question. And when people are looking for resources, and how does the law and the resources sort of balance? So I think both those are really, really good comments, and I appreciate our Patreons stating that. And we're going to try to answer some of those questions. So last night, one thing that we talked about was the introduction of the Whispers, and where Jesus really takes out a few and then brings Lydia back. So I'm going to kind of start with that and sort of go through some of the progression and some major things that are going to happen in the comic book. Now keep in mind, it's important to realize it's not going to happen exactly that way. They could use it as a road map, and it's not going to be the same characters. So in the comic, Lydia comes back, and Lydia and Carl start to bond. Jesus brings Lydia back to the hilltop, and Carl convinces Maggie, who's running the hilltop, to untie her. So that relationship starts to take off, if you know what I mean. Alpha wants to find her daughter. She wants to come rescue Lydia. So she makes her way to the hilltop with a big group. Now, Dante and Ken have been held by the Whispers. So it's kind of like a barter going on. So Alpha will offer Dante and Ken for Lydia. So it seems like a cool deal. Alpha leaves. Carl's not cool with that. Carl follows them. And when Carl follows them, he basically gets discovered. And he's there with the group. It's a big problem because Alpha doesn't know what to do with Carl. Carl, is not going to leave without Lydia. So Rick, Andrea, Dante, Michonne, they go looking for Carl. So, you kind of get a little bit of this back and forth. Well, Alpha eventually will return to Alexandria. She's not afraid to really step in there and be like, hey, I'm going to Hilltop. You shouldn't be coming to our territory, but I'm going to roam around wherever I want. So this is where I want to start to say it's a little bit sinister because Alpha, I think, feels like she can just sort of go and do and discover, but Rick's group cannot do the same thing. And I think that's where a little bit of that rift and the territorial thing will become more and more of an issue. And I think that's the primary issue. So when Alpha goes to Alexandria, she basically is giving Rick this lecture and talking about Carl, and she says that Rick's way is like it's a shrine to the old dead world. Not only, Steph, should you time them out, but just someone that's that stupid, that is that idiotic to come into one of our streams and instead of interacting with people want to interact and make a comment like that, let's just make sure that they don't ever show up to one of our streams again. How about that? There you go. Gone. It's a great time to bring up that, one, we're a very tight-knit group of people. We're a group of people that loves to discuss The Walking Dead. We're also a group of people that put up barriers, and if you're a troll, if you're a moron, if you're an idiot, if you just, that's all you do in life, you're just not welcome in our streams. So go hang out with somebody else. All right, moving on. We got Michael Curie with the super chat. So Michael Curie says, Opie from Sons as Beta is going to be weird. And is it true that you never see Beta's face in the comics? I'm learning a little bit more about Sons of Anarchy, Michael. And it is true that Beta never wants anyone to see his face. Whereas the others will take off their mask and show themselves. Beta's a famous dude, and I guess he doesn't want to be recognized. Until later in the comics. So there you go. There's the answer. And this is, if you have a super chat or you have a question, and I'm walking through bullet points, but clearly I'm not going to hit every bullet point from the comic. And that's not something that I saw when I was doing my research, so I appreciate the resident experts as well. So we saw Drama King said later on, and we also saw Cole Miller said you do see his face at some point. So that's what we're here to do. We're here to discuss, analyze, and come up with just some bold, bad, awesome theories. And Valerie, we're going to talk about that. And Ryan, you're absolutely right. They will tone some of that down. But there are going to be a couple things that I don't think they'll tone down completely, because I think it will pertain to Negan's storyline. I'll talk about that. I do remember the rumor that Maria Bello would play Alpha. And I want to give a shout out to DDA Ohio. That was a super chat. So he did the super chat and did the follow up. So thank you for that. I'm not going to go on just a complete rant with this, but here's the thing that I do want to say. Just in a little bit of seriousness, all those screenshots that I put up there were literally hundreds of thousands of views, conversations, interactions, shares that were just put up immediately. Which is why, once again, I'm going to shout out the 999 Army, because we do talk about theories, but we don't always just put one theory up there and then milk it and put another theory up there and do it. We're putting different spins on it and different conversations and different dialogue and different development. It won't be a full rant, Legend. It's not going to be a full-scale rant. You guys know how I feel about live streams. You know how I feel about the interaction and the connection and the networking and the fun that we do. But even yesterday with Beta, there was, when Ryan was announced, there were 1,000 people that cut and paste the exact same article just to try to get it out there and shove it in front of your face before everybody else. And I didn't want to have a race, because you know what? We're never going to post that article faster than people that get in the know. We're going to wait, let the smoke settle a little bit, and get together and talk about it at 9:30 at night. That's what we do. All right. Let's get back to the storyline, everybody, and have some fun with this. Told you it wouldn't be a rant. So Alpha's pretty bold. Definitely, Rick in the comics has found his match. So, Rick, Alpha, Carl, they have this problem. Carl doesn't want to leave without Lydia, and Lydia wants Carl to leave. Like, get out. So she basically tells Lydia, leave with them. You're no longer welcome here. Carl, you take Lydia. Rick, get out of here. But this is where it gets crazy, okay? Because now Alpha starts talking about territories. And this is our territory. You get out and you don't ever come back in our territory. And you know what? We've marked the territories. Well, guess what she marked the territories with? This is the part that I'm going to need just a little bit of your help, because I'm about to go off on a crazy theory. I'm going to let some of the experts chime in. Absolutely, Cole says, them heads, but let's test the knowledge of the Walking Dead army. Heads on pikes? Correct. But you know what? She had already done it. She had already decapitated these people before she met up with Rick. So it wasn't like whatever Rick said and whatever Rick did was going to change the outcome. Alpha had killed those people, used them as markers, and then after the fact basically said, oh, by the way, we marked our territory, don't come back. And I'm not going to tell you this now, but you'll find out later. We marked it with some of the people that you care about. So that's sinister. That's a step ahead of Rick. Rick is the eternal optimist. I can negotiate it. I can work it out. Carl, you go with me, Sean. It's always going to be Rick's hope, which is what we love about Rick. But Alpha is primitive and advanced at the same time. Now, hold on. You know what? Really? Timothy, am I reading too much into it? Au contraire, mon frere. Hold on. Who else was sinister and primitive at the same time? This is where I have a little bit of a mystery to solve. We're going to go back in time. Nope. Negan was not primitive. Hold on. The governor was not primitive. Somebody's going to get lucky and get it. Getting closer. I heard the wolves, but not quite. Drama King. Drama King, hold on. Sinister and primitive. Now the irony here is there were people that predicted that Jadis was alpha. I'm not predicting that. I'm not going to go there. But I'm going to do something a little different. All right, hold on. I'm going with Jadis. Alpha, primitive, sinister. Jadis, primitive, sinister. We know Jadis is not cast as alpha, but how many heads were put on pikes to serve as a territorial barrier to keep Rick's group away? You can maybe chalk it up as coincidence if you want. Cole Miller says 12. Dawn of the Franks says 12. Julie McGuire says 12. Sergeant Chosen One says 12. We've got a lot of 12s here. What did Jadis ask Negan for? A little bit of a pause here because I want this to sink in. You guys got it, right? Jadis asked Negan for 12 people, and Negan says people are a resource. Maybe coincidental, but it's 12. Negan is a concept. Alpha is a person. There's a whole lot of A's around the Heapsters. There's an A on a helicopter. There's an A on some cans. There's an A on some dumpsters. There's a whole lot of A's. Maybe alpha. Maybe it doesn't mean A. Maybe it doesn't mean anarchy. Maybe it doesn't mean an. Maybe it means alpha. Look, it's a mystery at this point. I'm not saying why. I'm not saying how. Next stage, you guys are on to it. Could Alpha and Jadis be related? That was the next question that I was going to ask. Could there be a connection between Alpha and Jadis? Relationship? Relative? All right. The last part that I'm going to throw out there. I think Jadis and the Heapsters and the Scavengers, and this is the part I am the most passionate about. I think they were a test group. If Rick is advanced society and Alpha, their purpose is to live like animals and to live among, that's the way that they adapt. Jadis's group almost seems like the group that was in the middle. They were becoming more primitive. They were almost like they were training, they were surviving, they were studying, they were figuring things out. They did add a person or two, but it seemed like society was going backwards with Jadis. And where we think the evolution is advancement and the Commonwealth and rockets and grenades and all of those things, maybe it's Alpha's group and to an extent Jadis's group that started realizing before Rick did that you're going to run out of supplies. And when you run out of supplies, you're going to have to survive the way that they survive. Rick's group is starting to get it a little bit, right? I mean, they got a horse and carriage. They don't have the transportation. They don't have the gas. They don't have the weapons. So I know it's a paradox, but could it be that Alpha and the Whisperers are the evolution by going backwards? Now, that's right, Kirby. They take, they don't bother. They're surviving. They're not trying to fight. They want to be left alone. Now, let me add layer number 5, because we said before, if we come up with a theory, we got to have 10 different things. In the TV show, could the evolution of the Whisperers partially be tied to the fact that Simon's group murdered all of these people that Alpha knew about? And that is some of the incentive. So where we see them as pure evil, there has to be a match that initially sparked. Could Simon's actions in executing all of those people be the beginning of the Whispers, with Jadis still being a mystery? And one more thing. I'm going to give you bullet point number 6 for this one. We're on a roll. Maybe you guys can add a few more to it. Why is it that Alpha, this is for the comic book fans out there, why is it Alpha is called Alpha, Beta is called Beta, and Lydia is called Lydia? I did find this out in the comics as well. A little bit of silence here. No, I know the answer. There you go. Michael Curie, you're on to it. In the New World, they don't believe in using their old names. No, it's not a code. They take on other names because they don't want their names to be attached to the old world. Why is Jadis called Jadis when her name is Anne? I mean, if this doesn't scream out some connection to the Whispers, and at least the beginning of the Whispers. So Alpha doesn't use her real name. Beta doesn't use her real name. Lydia, it's not a real name. And we have this person, Jadis. All right, let's leave Naomi out of this because Naomi's on a totally different show. She's just crazy. But Naomi's not in the loop here. But Jadis, to hide her identity and not use her real name, and to be going back in time, it's hard not to think that there's some sort of connection to what they were doing. Alpha means beginning, but that wasn't really the purpose of it. I think the purpose of it was, I'm Alpha, I'm the lead, and I'm not using my real name. We'll get back to that in 1 second, because I got Jimmy's jamming with a super chat, and Jimmy's jamming. Jimmy says, kills. Then what was the purpose of Negan putting the A on Daryl's sweatshirt? Could that mean that Negan could be in on the A thing too? Apparently, and I've heard several different rumors on this, the one rumor that I heard was the A meant asshole. And that's what Daryl was. And that was just kind of Negan's system of sorting people out for whatever crime. Hey, you got up and punched me, you're an asshole, boom, you're going to wear an A. If you're a thief, you're probably going to wear a different letter. So that A, I think, is clearly a totally different, not related to Jadis. Yep. Now, I would also think that Brian, Tamiel, they could have been real names. But when you're talking about the structure that the Scavengers had, it did seem like a kind of a Whisper training camp, or the first version, or a failed version. It doesn't mean that there's not pockets of them out there either becoming something. What I want to be careful not to do is keep this in mind. Everybody was something before, okay? So if we're introduced to Alpha and we see Alpha as a barbaric person, and she was something at one point. Michonne was a lawyer at one point. Rick has always been a sheriff. But we know about kind of, well, okay, Beta was famous. He was an athlete. But just because these people are going backwards doesn't mean that the things that they learned is not relevant, does not help them. But what I feel like is Alpha's group is trying to give it up, where Rick's group is trying to develop it, and they see winning the war as ultimately a cure, or ultimately survival, or building new communities. I see Alpha's group and the Whispers, and like I said, I've only researched it, I haven't read it. I see them as, no, it's not about building new things, it's about surviving among them and becoming part of that, because the walkers are the new evolution. They took over us. They can kill us. They can end our life. We have a harder time ending their life because we don't have the means and the ammunition and the resources in order to do that, because resources are scarce. And people, as Negan said, are a resource, and they're becoming more scarce. So if you want to live, this is the way you're going to live. So I'm not ready to really throw that out there and give you like the super bold statement that I think Jadis is not a mole, not a plant, involved, attached, whereas Negan knew the Whispers beforehand. Why do we assume that it's Negan who's going to know the Whispers after the time skip? Why can't we say it's Jadis? Jadis has knowledge of that group. Jadis has knowledge of the people who will become something. So DDA, I don't know that it started out as a spy, but it could indirectly be that she's involved, and that's what the whispers become. Because we don't know these helicopters are flying around in 5 years, do we? We know the helicopter's flying around now. We know that the helicopter is flying around 18 months from now. Exactly. Toledo, you got it. Jadis has knowledge of the helicopter. And Jadis has knowledge of the people in the helicopter. I mean, it certainly could be plausible that... No, I'm not saying the whispers use Stop. Hold on, man. Time out. You're not getting what I'm saying. I'm not saying that the whispers fly around in freaking helicopters. What I'm saying is there are people in helicopters right now. There are people that have gasoline right now. There's people that have bullets right now. There are people flying in helicopters 18 months from now. But there's a time skip that happens, and we don't know who those people become after the helicopters crash or run out of fuel. We don't know that those things are still going to happen 5 years from now, when the second time skip goes down. When the whispers are introduced. So, to ask that question and sort of bring the point, all right, everybody, you got to help me out with this. Put your thinking caps on. Let's use just a round year, okay? The Walking Dead airs today, and it's 2000 and... All right, hang on. Let's say it's October 7th. And the time skip has happened, the first time skip. And let's say, just for sake of argument, it's 2018. All right? Time skip has happened. It's 2018. Let's say the second time skip happens. Kentrail, I don't give a damn what the PT channel's doing. Okay? 1 million people have a connection. But we're trying to do a different connection. All right. So let's bring it back in. All right. Okay. Do we got everybody back to where we need them? Because I got to address this guy who was talking about the helicopter. He's visualizing Alpha, that I'm saying Alpha's flying around in a helicopter, and I guess the blades of the helicopter are taking people's faces off, and then she's using it. That's not what I'm saying. Okay? Let's get back with me. All right. So 2018 is, we know that's not the date, but October 7th it airs. We went through the first time skip. All right? A 5-year time skip happens. It could be 3 years, could be 6 years, but let's say 5-year time skip happens. That's 2023. Now let's go back to 2018. What is Alpha doing in 2018? Because we know what Alpha's doing in 2023. We know what she's doing in 5 years. What is she doing in 2018? Give me some thoughts. I don't know, random. As random as you possibly want to be. Where's Alpha right now, and what is she doing? No, doesn't matter. Make it up, Julie. Just give me something. Recruiting? Growing your group? Knitting? There you go, Mark. I like knitting. Surviving? Building an army? Building her base? Masks? How do you know? We don't, right? Recruiting? Being a mom? Recruiting an army? Killing? Maybe just surviving. Now hold on. Transition into being a leader. Not being bothered by others. All right, got another follow-up question. It's 2018. Is she alpha? BK Harp says protecting her people's ways. How do we know that? How do we know she has people? What if her name is Betty? What if she's Betty? She's with 20 other people. She's hanging out in Pennsylvania. What if she's a part of a military group that's trying to find survivors? Toledo, what if she's flying a helicopter? Is there? Drama King, have there been subtle whisper hints all throughout earlier seasons? Like the leaf that was circled by one other channel, and it said, is this the Whisperers? I won't name that channel. Give me the hints. I want to know. I want to know what the hints are. I'm not saying it's not out there. I'm not saying there aren't some things that could have been them. The note that Sherry wrote? You mean the note that Sherry wrote where 50 YouTubers said that Sherry is going to be the next alpha because she wrote an infinity symbol and that's her belt? And then we found out that Sherry's not alpha? Have we went back and thought about that note? Now wait a minute, hold on a minute. So Sherry's in a house and she wants to leave a note for Dwight and she sees a whole bunch of people and she zooms in on 100 Whisperers who are already Whisperers at this point and sees a belt and says, you know what, I'm going to draw a picture of her belt for Dwight. Or maybe Alpha came over to Sherry and whispered and said, hey, leave a note for Dwight and draw a picture of my belt. I mean, she could have said, hey, look, Sherry, come on, you want to hang out with us? You want to join our crew? Fine. Write your ex a letter. Tell him we're going to be up on that mountain up there. Tell him there's about 500 of us. We're looking for some good people. You know what, Sherry? Just forget all. Just draw an infinity symbol and let all the YouTubers figure it out. Come on, people. I mean, we got to think through some of this stuff. Sometimes a hint is not a hint. And believe me, I'm right on board with everybody. I love to talk about hints, and I love to talk about some of the clues that are out there. No doubt about it. It takes a few years to build an army. I'm not disputing that. Taking us 3 years to build 70,000 of the 999 army. What's up? That's what we do. I understand it. But let me ask you this question. You can build an army, but if you're already in the military, you have what? Let's think about this for a second. If you're flying around in a helicopter and you're attached to a battalion of people, you already have an army. You already have connections. I mean, I don't know that Alpha hasn't been out there for 2 years, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years. I'm not sure, which is why I'm asking the question. But here's one thing. I'm not positive that she is. And if I can debate both sides of that, if I can say, you know what, it's very possible that she's out there. I mean, there's some people here that are convinced, you know what, Kills? No way she could be tied to Jadis. No way she could be flying a helicopter because she's Alpha. And I've done the research, and it takes exactly 5.3 years in order to recruit the amount of people she needs, and they have to walk a certain way. And that's not how the show works. Because I could have even asked you the other question. I said The Walking Dead went through an 18-month time skip, and it was 2018. And if you add 5 years to that, it's 2023. But if you look at all these supposed hints that are out there, you could take another 18 months to 2 years away from it, which would make it 2016, which would mean that there would be technically a 7-year difference between the time that we supposedly saw the clues this season and when they're going to be introduced. Now, in 7 years, she could be living a barbaric lifestyle, or 7 years ago, she might have been riding in the back of a Jeep. She might have been eating some rations. She might have been knitting. She might have been doing whatever she does. But she also could have been involved in a military operation. Because everybody was something. And what if her MO was to rescue people? And what if she's seen that you can't do it? What if Alpha was a good person at some point? So I'm going to ask the group this question. Was Alpha a good person before the zombie apocalypse? So, what changed? What pushed her? What pushed her to a point where she would be willing to decapitate? So we don't know Jadis' backstory either. So as a follow-up question for the group. You think Jadis is okay? You think Jadis is okay walking all of those people that she was with into that compactor? That she just got over that? So, Negan has not gotten over the death of his wife. Alpha clearly has become a beast because of something. And we assume because Jadis is sitting by a campfire 18 months later that she's okay. So, Drama King, I think that's a fair question. Why hasn't she become one? She missed her helicopter. I'm not. See, this is where I want you guys to sort of freeze time a little bit. I'm not saying she has a connection to the Whisperers. What I'm saying is she has a connection to the people in that helicopter. And in 2016, it's possible those people are not the Whisperers. And after the time skip, how do we know that those people are the Whisperers? And maybe this is something that becomes more apparent after the time skip. And it's something we're going to have to talk about. That's why I said it's a mystery. It's not really a theory. It's not really. I'm trying to give you all angles we can take a look at. Cole, I'm not saying 100% the helicopter is, but we don't know this helicopter is going to be flying around for 5 years. We don't know this helicopter is going to make it past the first couple episodes of the season. Okay, one thing I did promise, and I'm going to get to what Negan's character and the importance. So, this is, I'm not going to use the exact lingo. You can read between the lines. So, after this decapitation, the 12, as I said before, it's very coincidental that 12 people were decapitated and put on spikes, and Jadis asked for 12 at some point. I know it's way, way early, but if you want an Easter egg, you want to talk about that stuff. After this happens, we don't hear from the Whisperers right away. So Negan gets out of his cell. Negan pretends to be passing through where the Whisperers are, but he's really trying to find some things out about them. Well, ultimately, he gets accepted into the group. Beta's not a big fan of him. Negan and Beta don't really hit it off. But ultimately, there's one thing that Negan does not stand for. You guys know what it is. If you want to type it, just keep it PG rated. I know some people are going to comment on that. Negan cannot tolerate the assaulting of women. So, apparently, 2 of the Whisperers are taking advantage of another female Whisperer. And Negan, who is with the Whisperers, and he's been accepted at this point, intervenes. And this is where I want you to understand the core thought between Alpha and Beta and their rules and the de-evolution of their society. So Negan has to do what Negan does, and this is what we've always respected about Negan. But Alpha and Beta do not like the fact that Negan interferes because the lady was not asking for help. And it's a principal issue with the Whispers. So if she's not asking you to help, even though she's in a position where most people would help, you don't help because it promotes weakness. That's their rule. So Negan gets isolated. Now, ultimately, spoiler alert from the comics, and spoiler alert maybe, Negan and Alpha disagree. Negan decapitates Alpha and then holds her heads up and says, wait till Rick gets a look at this. All right. So now you got kind of the overview, the gist of it. And why people are, just they detest who they are. There is no Rick for Negan to show off to. There is no Carl to fall in love with Lydia. So those characters and how those characters get developed is, can Aaron be that? Can Henry take that role? If Negan were to do that, would it be Daryl? Would it be wait till Daryl gets a look at this? So that's the question I'm going to ask you with the changes in characters. If that story were to play out, and it might not play out exactly like that, who will Negan try to impress? If you had to substitute that line right now, and Negan did take out Alpha and held up Alpha's head and said, wait until such and such gets a look at this. Michonne? Maybe not Maggie. Maggie's gone. This is unless Maggie comes back after the 5-year time skip. So Stoner says Aaron for sure, but it just doesn't feel like Aaron has that quality yet, does it? I mean, Aaron may lose a hand, he may lose an arm, he may lose half his body. It's not going to make him Rick Grimes. Aaron's got a long way to go to be viewed in that light. And Aaron and Negan don't really have a relationship. Daryl and Negan do. And I think that's just going to be something that we're going to have to debate a little bit more. All right, everybody. That's a little bit of I wanted to run through the comic. I think tomorrow night, if you guys are down for this, I would like to continue some Whisper conversation. But because of some of the theories, and let me say this. I am not going on a platform right now and saying that there is a Jadis future Whisper connection. I'm just saying there's some coincidences that are out there. And I don't know how long it takes to build up the army. If you guys want to continue this discussion, just give me a quick 999, but it'll be a little bit different because what I want to do tonight is walk through the bullet points of the comic. What I would like to do tomorrow is talk about how the show could take that storyline and how the show could change that storyline with some characters like Aaron, like Daryl, like Henry, like Michonne. All right, cool. We're down for that. So if you guys are watching the playback, here's the deal. Tomorrow night, we're going to talk a little bit more Whispers. If you think about that theory a little bit more and you have something that you don't like about it that seems, all right, Kills, there's 4 or 5 things that are possible with that, but this just doesn't make any sense, then leave it in the comments below. If there's a few things that you did see with the scavengers, with the heapsters, that does portray that middle ground that I talked about, where Rick might be advanced, Jadis could be in the middle, and then Alpha's group ultimately becomes the new evolution, which is the de-evolution almost. I know it's a little bit weird, but the time skips are going to make everything very challenging for all of us. So, I want to say that I appreciate all of you guys for being here. An hour goes by like in minutes. You think Walking Dead skips time. Man, we do these streams, and I feel like we just time skip. Appreciate all the interaction, all the passion, all the debate. It gets heated because we care and we want to get it out there. But you know what? When this video ends, we reset and we come back and do the same thing tomorrow night. So I know I didn't get a chance to call on everybody. I appreciate your interaction, appreciate the super chats. Your comments are included into the stream, so people will get a chance to read your comments. If you're watching the playback, don't just respond on what I say. Respond on what some of the other people in the streams are saying is possible, because there's some really good ideas out there. A few of them get my eye, and I stop the chat and talk about a few of them, but there are a lot of good thoughts that were included that I really just didn't get a chance to address, and we'll try to continue this tomorrow night. Thanks to everybody. If you're watching the playback, this is the closing credits. Special shout out to all the patrons up in the top left corner. Appreciate your thoughts, comments, your contribution to the channel. Also, all the sponsors in the top right corner, and all the 999 Army that you can see streaming up along the side. If you are a proud member, representative, supporter of the 999 Army, hit the little button over there that has the thumb pointing up. If you think we suck and you never want to watch our videos again and you don't want to hang out with us, hit the little button of the thumbs down and let us know that, hey, you suck and we'll never attend another one of your streams. Either way, it's a win-win situation because we get the people here that we want to be here, and that's what we're all about. Give me a quick 999, and then I'm going to do a few shout-outs and just say thank you to all the loyal listeners, the fans, the people that really make this channel so much fun. And we're going to start out with DJ Domstott. Also, Randall Roundtree. Randall, I haven't seen you in a little while either. Thanks for being here. DDA Ohio, thank you. The Catnat, Alan Mullins, D. Martinelli, Viola McGowan, Shane Yahtzee, Hugh. What's going on? I'm not reading your whole name, by the way. Brian Rooker, Kimberly G., Patrick Ivers, Tegan, Kelly Golan Zenier, Nicholas Scott, Hippo in the house. What's going on? We're going to have an H-bomb in December. Looking forward to it, man. Dawn of the Frank, thank you. Have a good night. Kendra Muhammad, I'd love to get you riled up. The first time it didn't, but I have a question. You know what? I'm doing shout-outs. And Kendra, this is for you. And it's just strictly out of curiosity. And a couple people watching the playback. When you guys are watching Brian, or you're watching a playback of a video, are people in there saying, Kill says this, or 999 says this? I'm just curious. Or if someone's watching Ronnie, do they go in there and said, Kill said this? Or Trev? And I don't know. This is why I'm asking a serious question. Because Tracy says occasionally. I know who they are, and I have the utmost respect for them. I don't watch them. So, it's a serious question. I'm not trying to be sarcastic. Okay. Some people say they see it sometimes. So here's the thing. If it's any of you, it's just the thing that I would ask, don't. If you guys like Brian, Ronnie, Trev, other people that are out there, I just know the names. Then support them. Show them, give them your respect, interact with them. Let them know that, or say, hey, there's other people out there that think this. But I don't want I don't want the 999 Army pasted on somebody else's video, and I don't want my name pasted on somebody else's video. because I just think it's disrespectful. And if I ever watched one of them, I wouldn't go in there as 999. I would probably just go in there and hang out. I wouldn't even want people to see my logo if I was in there. And to that point where you see Cammy, I will say that, hey, there's nothing wrong with some variety. But I would say that 75 to 80% of our viewers, they give us they spend so much time here. They don't have time for other channels. I mean, we're doing this an hour a night. So I know there's some people that watch everything that's out there. But most of our loyal listeners that are part of this channel, like Captain Crawfish says, I'm hopelessly devoted to you. Right, Captain? There's no place to hide since you pushed my love aside. I just did a little serenade for Captain Crawfish because of his undying loyalty to the 999 Army. But, no, thank you for that. I appreciate that. Just a question I kind of wanted to know. It was a question and a request at the same time. And in closure, I didn't get to do all the shout-outs. So, I'll catch you guys tomorrow night because I don't want to go back and rile up the shout-outs again. But in closure, the 999 Army is not me. And I want to be clear with that. I'm the host of a group of great people. It's all of you. It's a concept, yeah, and I kind of got it going. I'm kind of like alpha, right? But this group is it's a body. It's a awesome group of individuals. And don't forget that. So when you guys represent it with pride. But, don't spam it on other people's channels because that's not what we do. We do it the right way. And if that means we have 50 people, we'll do 50 people. But if we have 50,000, then we'll stream for 50,000. And if it's 5 million, it grows to whatever it grows to. And that's completely up to everybody here. Thank you, everybody. 1 hour and 6 minutes. So, decent amount of time. And let's get together and do this again tomorrow night. Do a little bit of Whisper homework. I'm going to call in a few more people tomorrow because I think we're going to have a little bit more fun. Tonight was fun for me. Hopefully you guys had a good time. But the one thing that I want to do tomorrow night is I really like talking about the differences between the comic and the show. And we know that there's going to be some major differences. So Whisper Facts Part 2 coming tomorrow, 9:30. Talk to you then. Peace.